Here we are at the Microsoft Theatre in LA with Andre Cholmondeley, Steve Howe's guitar tech.
Hello folks, how are you?
And he's been very kind enough to offer us a guided tour of Steve Howe's guitar.
Yes, and let me also say I'm proud to be one of the few people who've toured with both Howes, Steve Howe and Greg Howe. But
cool.
That's a little guitar nerd humor there. Anyway, let's start out with one of the 175s. You know, Steve is famous for the 175. This is not the number one. He stopped touring with that in 2011. I was fortunate to tour with it once. But this is the Gibson Steve Howe model. And we'll see in a minute that there's another guitar with 3 pickups. Some of you notice right away that's kind of different. Usually you see 2 humbuckers on these. But this is the one they did in the 90s. Steve Howe model, and it's beautiful. I mean, it looks down to every detail like the 50s and 60s models that Steve is famous for. So we use this a lot, and he can get some of his ES5 type of 3 pickup sounds with this. So beautiful guitar, ES-175. For those who don't know, ES means electric Spanish. I had someone ask me that the other day, and yeah, that's something that people don't know. So you have the ES5 and ES-175, ES-335. So here's another 175. This one is from 1964. Steve bought this a couple years ago. He just loves them, and when he finds a really nice one, he picks it up. I mean, these are just great guitars. They just
very cool.
Acoustic. You can play them acoustically. They're hollow body. They just ring. I mean, I've really fallen in love with these, working with them the last couple of years. And actually, in tribute to their versatility, Pat Metheny, Steve Howe, and Ted Nugent all play this guitar, which is, you can't get more different.
Absolutely. Between
those. So this one is not in the show right now. It will be in a couple of months. But this one is, at first glance, people think it's a 335. It's a 345. Which is the stereo version, and really great guitar. They sold it to you with a special cable that went to 2 amplifiers, which was pretty radical in the 50s to do that. Chuck Berry, I think Alvin Lee had one of these too, and Alex Lifeson, very famous for playing the 345. Unbelievable guitar. I mean, you just plug this straight into an amp, and there's something about the filtering, there's something about the warmth of it. If you're a Rush fan, the Caress of Steel album, those chords that you hear on those, there's something about that guitar, you know, on that album, and it's a thick, warm sound. Another classic album would be Close to the Edge. I mean, you listen to the beginning of Siberian Khatru or things like that. It's incredible sound. So this is the 345. This is the guitar that's on Close to the Edge, and Tales, and a few other things. Steve Howe solo records.
Wow, how
beautiful
about that?
Guitar,
amazing. Yeah. You were saying the other day about the numbers on these Gibsons as well.
Right.
What they corresponded to the price, right?
Yeah. Well, the 175, I know that's what they cost at one point. 175.
Right.
You know, which, you know, you do those dollar conversions. Maybe that's $2 grand today or something. But I don't know. It's some other number. But yeah, that's what they were for a while. I don't think that's across the board, because of course the ES5 wasn't $5, but you know, I understand they used that at one point. This is a nice Les Paul. I believe it's a 90s, and this one, it's got Steve's name up there. This was custom done for Gibson. They put a Roland GK pickup in there. Cool. So this has, you know, custom housing for the 13-pin and all that, and I know you're familiar with that because in the Carl Palmer band, you guys have, you know, Simon uses the 13-pin.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But this guitar on this tour, Steve's just using it as a really great and solid Les Paul. It's a beautiful Paul, and it's got, yeah, these little micro tuners that you're used to seeing on a Floyd Rose or something. But the Roland pickup, you got synth volume and controls for the synth. So this opens up a world to using virtual guitar like the VG8 and things like that Steve has used. I'll note too that Steve, for his traditional kind of guitar aesthetic, let's not forget he did that record GTR with Steve Hackett, which was all guitar synth in the early 80s. So he's always been very interested in trying out different technologies, but he always goes back to these great Gibsons and acoustic guitars. This is a Steve Howe model Martin. It's the MC38. Wow, beautiful guitar again. Just a sonorous, warm, just a bigger sound than you would think with kind of a mid-sized body. So it's the MC38. This is one of 4 prototypes. He's been using this a lot on this tour. Steel string, you know, guitar. It's got his little yin-yang. Many of you know that Steve, of course, has had a long interest in Eastern modalities and, you know, macrobiotics and lots of Japanese culture and Eastern culture. So there's some motifs worked into this that are beautiful.
Right. Cool.
Really nice guitar, though. And, of course, Martin. You can't go wrong. So he's using that a lot. This next one is perhaps the belle of the ball. I don't know. Tough to beat the 345. But this right here is the ES5. Wow, what a guitar. You know, it's got this 4-position switch, so you can pick the 3 pickups or all at once. Beautiful guitar. Steve says that he went to see a concert, and I think he said it was Chet Atkins and Chuck Berry, either in the same show or he saw them in the same week or something, but they had these guitars, and people can, if you think about it, all those old shots of Chuck Berry, this is what he's got, right? He's doing the duck walk, and, you know,
yeah.
Beautiful. And Chet Atkins, who Steve is a big fan of. And that's it right there. If you think about rock and roll people like Bill Haley and Chuck Berry and, you know, I'm forgetting the guy who did Shakin' All Over, excuse me, I forget his name, English guy. But you think about all that stuff, and Hank Marvin, all that kind of twangy 50s guitar, and then you add in Wes Montgomery, and then you add in Chet Atkins and the country stuff, and you've got a real solid idea of where Steve Howe's coming from. That's part of it, you know. And this guitar brings all of those styles together. This guitar is the actual guitar on the Fragile album.
Nice.
There it is, folks. I mean, that's it. It's rock and roll history. This is on every track with an electric guitar, except Heart of the Sunrise, which is his 175.
Right.
And it brings to mind one of the beautiful things about Steve is that he's noted for years for having a huge collection. There's a book with Steve's entire collection that you can get, and of course there's pictures all over the web. But he's not one of these guys who wants to keep them in his house in a glass case. He has said to me, you know, Andre, they're tools. I want to use them. So he'd like to get out there and use these instruments. They're the tools of his craft. So we take care of them, and, you know, I'm entrusted with my life to protect these. But there it is, the Fragile guitar. So we're almost done. We just got a couple more. And I think, what do we have? 11 guitars in this show. On the road with us. But about 8 of them are in the show. Now this one is not currently in the show, but we have it so that we can break it out when we need it in a couple of months. As you know, we're doing this tour, and then we're doing a cruise in a couple of months. And on the cruise, we've got the need for a couple other guitars. So just being careful to get that out properly. And this one I'm not even going to bother to play because it hasn't been tuned in a while. It's just traveling with us.
Oh,
but this is another famous guitar. This is Steve's. He calls it the Portuguese. His sister got him this guitar about 50 years ago as a gift. And it's just a simple kind of Spanish or Portuguese. I think it's called a vihuela in some cultures. But as you know, there's a lot of guitars shaped like this that have different names. But, you know, it's embarrassingly out of tune. But it's down tuned because it's been, we travel with it.
Right.
But you get the idea. This is the guitar on All Good People, or what's the one on Going for the One? Wondrous Stories. So this is on a lot of those, any of those Yes songs where you hear that really high, beautiful guitar.
Yeah.
So there it is.
Nice.
And then finally, in terms of just regular guitars, beautiful Martin classical Spanish. He terms it the Spanish guitar, and that's what it is. It's a nylon string. It's a classical. It's got a really nice Fishman pickup in it,
Cool.
but just a nice, well-built Martin classical. Can't say much more about it. Just it's Martin, so it sounds great, plays great, and he uses this a lot on things like "Mood for a Day" and the piece we're doing from Tales from Topographic Oceans, Leaves of Green. I'll pull this one over here. Now this gets into the technology a little bit. Let's put this into the light. This is his Line 6, I think it's a 700, you know, so we keep it on the stand so he can come up behind it with another guitar on and kind of do the opening of Roundabout and things like that, the middle bits of other songs. The purpose this serves is, Steve, if you look at some old 70s videos, he sometimes had 10 or 12 guitars on stage with him.
Right.
Acoustics, 12 strings, he had his sitar guitar, he had all this stuff, alternate tunings. This enables him to do all of that with one quick thing. So in this tour, we're using it for a 12-string and for a 6-string acoustic. Other set lists, we might use the sitar. There's a telly in there, there's 335, all kinds of stuff. People who know about the Variacs know about it. If you don't, look it up. They're pretty cool. The guitars themselves, in my opinion, weren't fantastic the first couple iterations. This was one of the best ones they did, so it feels really great as a guitar. Nice neck, and he enjoys playing it.
Looks amazing as well. So
Yeah, it looks great. And those are not hard to find. And if you want to, let's see, we can put some light over here. Finally,
Yeah.
Let's finish with the double neck Fender steel. And it's not a pedal steel. People call it that sometimes. And it's not a lap steel. It's just a double neck steel guitar. You know, you got your pickup selection and double volume, or volume and tone. Yeah, that's about it. He uses these steels on it.
cool.
Got it tuned to E major and E minor.
Ah, right.
Yeah, so he uses it on
Nice.
E major, E minor.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can use it on the beginning of Soon. This is another one that it's on tons of records. This is
Right.
the one that's on Close to the Edge and a lot of solo records, and that incredible beginning of Going for the One. This is it. This is the instrument.
There
And
it
you can
is.
see it in some videos for the Drama album. He plays a bunch of slide on Drama too, a bunch of steel. So there we have it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Andre.
Hey, Paul, it's an honor, and this is, rock and roll history.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people will agree that you've got one of the best jobs in the world.
Well, I'm humbled to have to take care of these babies,
Yeah.
and I give thanks all the time. I'm very fortunate to have worked with a number of my heroes, and my website, by the way, is guitartour.net.
Guitartour.net.
Guitartour.net, and I also work for a couple other guitarists people know, like Adrian Ballou and the late Greg Lake and some other people. But working for Steve is, I was saying to someone the other day, I started working for him in 2011, and it's been on and off since then. For about a little over 2 years, I've been working for him in total on the road. And it's still fascinating to watch him every night. I see you there watching, and we're both going like, wow,
Yeah,
so his
absolutely.
creativity at age 70 is still paramount. He still has fun.
Yeah.
And he does these little,
Yeah.
like Chuck Berry things that are so cool, because you think about, he's very in touch with that 18-year-old. He talks about that all the time. We'll talk about, I've learned so much about 50s music actually from him. Sometimes he'll just be noodling a little lick, and what's that, Steve? Oh, that's the B-side to Rock Around the Clock. Really? Which, by the way, is called 13 Women and One Man. How filthy is that? For 1957. And the song kind of goes like that. It's this guy. And he just noodles on these songs. It might be Django Reinhardt. It might be
Right.
a blues song. It might be a jazz thing. But he still has fun. And I think that's the message to tell people. Have fun with music. Study hard and study the history.
Yeah.
And thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And it's great hearing you play every night, and I wish you the best.
Well, and you. A lot of people don't realise it, but you're a great guitarist in your own right as well. So,
Thanks. That's
man of
very
many
kind.
talents.
Thanks, Paul.
All
To
right,
be continued.
thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
And here's a quick look at this amazing theatre we're playing tonight. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. See you very soon.